In 1513, Machiavelli documented a pattern so powerful, so universally effective at creating lasting respect and attraction that it contradicts everything modern relationship advice tells you. Not manipulation, not games, not tricks, a single strategic principle that makes people pursue your attention, value your presence, and remain invested in you indefinitely. Here's what makes this observation dangerous to conventional wisdom. It requires you to do the opposite of what you've been taught. You've been told to pursue, to demonstrate interest, to make effort, to show you care. Machiavelli watched this approach fail thousands of times. Meanwhile, those who understood his principle created magnetic presence that drew others to them effortlessly and maintained that attraction across decades. Today, we're exploring the one strategic principle that creates enduring respect and pursuit in relationships. Not just romantic relationships, but friendships, professional relationships, family dynamics, all of it. This works because it's based on fundamental human psychology that hasn't changed in 500 years. This isn't about manipulating anyone or playing games. It's about understanding what actually creates sustained interest versus what kills it. Most people do the exact opposite of what works, then wonder why initial attraction fades, why people take them for granted, why relationships that started intensely become indifferent. Machiavelli observed princes who commanded lifelong loyalty using this principle. He watched advisors maintain influence for decades through it. He documented merchants who built permanent business relationships with it. The pattern was universal. Those who understood this created lasting value in others' perception. Those who didn't were quickly dismissed and forgotten. The principle: maintain strategic scarcity of your attention and presence. Here it is. The principle Machiavelli identified that creates enduring pursuit and respect. Never be completely available. Never be entirely predictable. Never give all your attention, all your time, or all your resources. Maintain strategic scarcity that makes access to you valuable rather than assumed. This contradicts everything you've been taught about relationships. You've been told that caring means being available whenever needed. That love means making someone your priority. That friendship means always being there. That commitment means complete accessibility. Machiavelli observed that this approach invariably led to being taken for granted. The person who's always available becomes background rather than priority. The person who gives all their attention receives decreasing appreciation for it. The person who's completely predictable stops being interesting. Watch this pattern in your own experience. The relationship where you were always available, always accommodating, always putting the other person first, always making yourself accessible. How did that person treat you over time? Did your constant availability make them more invested or less? Did your complete accommodation increase their respect or decrease it? Most people discover that the more available and accommodating they became, the less valued they felt. This seems paradoxical if you believe conventional relationship wisdom. It's completely predictable if you understand human psychology the way Machiavelli did. Humans value scarcity. We pursue what's difficult to obtain. We treasure what's rare. We take for granted what's freely and constantly available. This isn't moral failing. It's evolutionary psychology. Resources that are abundant lose value. Resources that are scarce become precious. Your time, attention, and presence are resources. When you make them abundantly available, they lose value in others' perception. When you maintain strategic scarcity, they become precious. The person who has unlimited access to you stops valuing that access. The person who must earn and wait for your time treasures it when received. Machiavelli wrote, "Men value things more in proportion to their scarcity." This applies to physical resources and to personal resources like attention and availability. Make yourself scarce and you become valuable. Make yourself abundant and you become taken for granted. But here's what most people miss. Strategic scarcity isn't about being unavailable or distant. It's about having a full life independent of any single relationship, so that your availability is naturally limited by genuine priorities rather than artificially limited through games. The person playing games by pretending to be busy creates artificial scarcity that others eventually see through. The person who actually is busy because they have rich life full of purposes, relationships, and pursuits creates genuine scarcity that naturally makes their time valuable. How strategic scarcity creates pursuit. Now let's examine the psychological mechanisms by which strategic scarcity creates sustained pursuit and respect. Understanding why this works prevents you from dismissing it as manipulation and helps you implement it authentically. The first mechanism is the psychological principle of intermittent reinforcement. When reward is constant and predictable, interest decreases. When reward is variable and uncertain, engagement increases. This is why gambling is addictive, while guaranteed returns aren't. When you're always available, always responsive, always accommodating, you're providing constant, predictable reward. The other person texts and you respond immediately. They want time together and you're free. They need support and you drop everything. This predictability makes engagement with you less exciting because the outcome is guaranteed. When you maintain strategic scarcity, you create variable reinforcement. Sometimes you're available, sometimes you're not. Sometimes you respond quickly, sometimes you're busy. Sometimes you can accommodate requests, sometimes your schedule doesn't allow it. This variability creates psychological engagement because the other person never knows what to expect. They text wondering if you'll respond immediately or in a few hours. They want to see you wondering if you're free or busy. They make requests wondering if you can accommodate. This uncertainty creates interest and attention that predictability never does. The second mechanism is value perception through effort required. Humans are cognitive misers who use mental shortcuts to determine value. One powerful shortcut: things that require more effort to obtain are perceived as more valuable than things obtained easily. When you're always available, accessible, and accommodating, relationship with you requires minimal effort. The other person doesn't have to plan ahead to see you, doesn't have to wait for your availability, doesn't have to earn your attention. This low effort requirement signals low value unconsciously. When you maintain strategic scarcity, relationship with you requires effort. They have to plan ahead because your schedule fills up. They have to wait sometimes because you're not always immediately available. They have to earn your time by being interesting and respectful enough that you choose to prioritize them. This effort requirement signals high value. The third mechanism is the psychological need for challenge and achievement. Humans are motivated by challenge and achievement more than by ease and guarantee. We're engaged by pursuing what's uncertain and achieving what's difficult. We're bored by what's easy and guaranteed. The person who's completely available and accommodating eliminates all challenge from the relationship. There's nothing to pursue because you're already completely accessible. There's nothing to achieve because you've already given everything. This lack of challenge creates boredom and disengagement. The person who maintains strategic scarcity creates ongoing challenge. They have to keep pursuing your attention. They have to keep earning your time. They have to keep being their best to maintain your interest. This ongoing challenge maintains engagement and investment. The fourth mechanism is opportunity cost awareness. When someone is always available to you, being with them has no opportunity cost. You're not giving up anything else. When someone is rarely available, being with them means they chose you over other options, which feels more meaningful. Your constant availability signals that you have nothing better to do than be available to them. Your strategic scarcity signals that you have many valuable uses of your time, and you're choosing to spend some of it with them. The second creates much stronger appreciation than the first. The fifth mechanism is mystery and unpredictability. Humans are curious creatures, attracted to mystery and engaged by unpredictability. The person who's completely available and open becomes entirely knowable, eliminating mystery. The person who maintains strategic scarcity remains somewhat mysterious and unpredictable. When they don't know exactly when you'll be available, what you're doing when you're not available, or what might be occupying your attention, you remain interesting. When they know your schedule completely, have total access to your time, and understand exactly how you spend every moment, you become boring. How to implement strategic scarcity. Authentically. Understanding the principle is useless without knowing how to implement it authentically. The key word is authentically, because manufactured unavailability is transparent and ultimately ineffective. Strategic scarcity works when it's the natural result of a full, purposeful life rather than a game you're playing. Build a life so full that your time genuinely becomes scarce. This is the foundation. Develop purposes beyond any single relationship. Pursue goals that matter to you. Maintain friendships independent of romantic relationships. Engage in hobbies and interests that occupy your time and attention. Create a life where you're naturally busy because you're doing meaningful things. When your scarcity is authentic, there's nothing to maintain or remember. You're not playing games about when to respond to texts or pretending to be busy. You actually are busy with things that matter to you, and relationship fits into that full life rather than being your entire life. Maintain independent social circles. Don't merge your entire social life into theirs. Keep friends they don't share. Maintain activities you do without them. Preserve parts of your life that exist independently of the relationship. This creates natural scarcity because you have genuine other commitments and interests. Respond to communication on your schedule, not theirs. When they text or call, respond when it's convenient for you, rather than dropping everything immediately. This doesn't mean playing games about response time. It means actually having other priorities that sometimes take precedence over immediate response. If you're working, in the gym, focused on a hobby, or engaged with other people, it's appropriate to respond when you're finished with what you're doing, rather than immediately. This trains them that your time has value and other claims on it beyond their convenience. Be willing to decline requests that don't work for you when they want to make plans and you're not available or not interested. Say no without extensive justification. "I'm not available that night" is sufficient. You don't need to provide detailed explanations of competing priorities to justify declining. The person who always accommodates regardless of their own preferences becomes boring and taken for granted. The person who has clear preferences and boundaries about their time becomes respected and valued. Maintain activities and interests they're not part of. Have hobbies, pursuits, and interests that you engage in independently. This creates natural time apart, where you're focused on things that matter to you beyond the relationship. It also keeps you interesting, because you're developing as a person rather than existing only as extension of the relationship. Don't make them your entire emotional support system. Maintain other relationships that provide emotional support, intellectual stimulation, and social engagement. When you're not relying entirely on one person to meet all your needs, you're naturally less available because you're distributing your time and energy across multiple valuable relationships. Have goals and purposes that require your focus. Pursue career advancement, creative projects, fitness goals, educational objectives, whatever matters to you beyond relationship success. These goals create legitimate demands on your time and attention that prevent you from being completely available while making you more interesting and accomplished. Maintain mystery about your schedule and activities. You don't need to provide detailed accounting of how you spend time when you're not together. I had plans. I was busy. I was working on some projects are sufficient. Constant detailed explanations eliminate mystery and suggest you feel obligated to account for your time to them. Be genuinely unpredictable sometimes. Occasionally be available when they expect you to be busy. Sometimes respond immediately when they expected delay. Occasionally accommodate a request when you usually wouldn't. This unpredictability maintains engagement because they never know exactly what to expect. The common thread in all of these is authenticity. None of this works if you're pretending to be busy while actually sitting around hoping they'll contact you. None of this works if you're manufacturing scarcity through games while having an otherwise empty life. Strategic scarcity is effective only when it's the natural result of actually having valuable uses of your time beyond any single relationship. What strategic scarcity accomplishes? When implemented authentically, strategic scarcity creates several specific outcomes that make you more attractive and respected in all types of relationships, not just romantic ones. It prevents you from being taken for granted. When your time and attention have genuine scarcity, people can't assume they'll always be available. This prevents the gradual devaluation that happens when someone has unlimited access to you and stops appreciating it. It maintains your personal power in relationships. The person who needs the relationship least has the most power in it. When you have a full life independent of any single relationship, you need that relationship less, which paradoxically makes the other person value it more. It keeps you interesting over time. The mystery and independence created by strategic scarcity prevent you from becoming boring or predictable. You remain someone with your own life, your own interests, and your own purposes, rather than just becoming extension of someone else. It creates healthy interdependence rather than unhealthy dependence. When both parties have full lives and come together by choice rather than need, the relationship is stronger. Strategic scarcity ensures you're maintaining independence that makes interdependence healthy. It attracts higher quality people. People who respect boundaries, value independence, and have their own full lives are attracted to strategic scarcity. People who want someone completely available and without independent life are repelled by it, which is filtering toward better matches. It prevents relationship enmeshment. Maintaining separate identity, interests, and time prevents the unhealthy merging where you lose yourself in another person. Strategic scarcity ensures you remain a complete individual within the relationship. It increases your leverage in conflicts. When problems arise, the person who's less desperate for the relationship to continue has more power to set terms and boundaries. Your willingness to walk away if treated poorly comes from having full life to walk away to. Machiavelli's principle of strategic scarcity contradicts comfortable relationship mythology but describes accurate human psychology. We value what's scarce, pursue what's uncertain, treasure what requires effort, and take for granted what's freely abundant. Your time, attention, and presence follow these same psychological rules. The person who's always available becomes background. The person who maintains strategic scarcity through authentic full life remains focus. The person who gives everything immediately is taken for granted. The person who maintains appropriate boundaries is respected and valued. This isn't about playing games or manipulating anyone. It's about understanding that complete availability doesn't create attraction. It kills it. That constant accommodation doesn't generate respect. It destroys it. That eliminating all challenge and mystery doesn't strengthen relationships. It bores people out of them. Build a life so full of purposes, relationships, interests, and pursuits that your time naturally becomes valuable through genuine scarcity. Maintain independence and boundaries that preserve your identity within relationships. Respond to others on your schedule rather than always dropping everything immediately. Be willing to decline what doesn't work for you without extensive justification. The result is that you become someone others pursue rather than someone who pursues. Someone whose time is treasured rather than assumed. Someone who maintains interest